What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully, you guys having a great day so far. In today's video, we are on the test server here, and we will be covering this brand new strategy brought forth by Bronco Raids. Bronco Raids covered this in a couple videos on his channel recently. If you guys don't know who he is, he's another content creator. Comes up with some really cool strategic ideas to deal with PvE content in this game. I'll provide a link to his channel and some of his content in the description and the pinned comment below. Make sure you guys give him some love. Works really hard in this game and comes up with some pretty cool ideas. With that all being said, the strategy that we're going to talk about here today is a strategy to deal with the Sand Devil. Now, I'm going to show you guys this Sand Devil team here, and you guys can make up your own minds and judgment about this. But I tried to kind of make it so that it's as accessible as possible, and just to show you guys a proof of concept. I'm not saying that this is going to be an effective team against the Sand Devil, but I wanted to show you guys the proof of the concept and the idea, and I'll explain how it works. So let's talk through the run here. What's going on, right? We have a reviver here with Kamir, and then we have a bunch of random nobodies doing a bunch of random nothing. So the big attack comes in and Kamir somehow stays alive. So that's going to be the big kind of important thing in this entire run, is that we have to keep the reviver alive so that the reviver can revive your team, and then your team can continue dealing damage to the boss. Like I said, don't worry about the other champions around Kamir. The most important champion here is the reviver champion, and in this case we chose Kamir. Again, he survives the big nuke that's supposed to kill everybody. He revives everybody, and they come back in and then do the damage, to the boss, right? So obviously, this can be heavily optimized. You just put in some different champions that can actually do more damage. Kamir with better stats and all that stuff, and then you actually have an effective, viable team from the strategy. So, what is this strategy all about? Let's talk about it a little bit here. Let's duck out of this run and let's talk about what is exactly happening. So we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about this. The main important champion here is going to be the reviver. The reviver here, we're going to choose Kamir. So what's happening is that the boss is killing everybody, and it's triggering this mastery. This mastery is very important. Timely intervention. Whenever a champion's turn meter increases the champion's turn meter by 20% when an ally drops below 25%. So obviously the big AoE kill is going to kill everybody. Their HP is going to drop below 25%. This champion, Kamir, is going to get a bunch of turn meter from all those, dead allies, right? How that is important is that all that turn meter translates into damage reduction when paired with Aspect of Suroth. So whenever the wearer receives fatal damage, so Kamir actually receives a fatal damage from that big AoE hit, the damage gets reduced by 50%, that's the base, of their turn meter, and then fully reduces their turn meter. Cooldown is 1 turn. All right. So obviously with the more upgraded Aspect of Suroth, you're going to receive more damage reduction. So in this case, we're testing out a level 12 level 12, which gives you 80% of the turn meter is going to be reduced, which means that if, for example, if Kamir started off with 0 turn meter, which is like, the worst case scenario. If you started off with 0 turn meter, when your teammates die, you're going to gain, depending how many teammates die, you're going to gain a bunch of turn meter, 80%. Let's say you gain 80% turn meter. Of that 80%, you're going to reduce damage equal to 50% of that turn meter. So if you have 80%, 50% of that is 40%. So you're going to be putting down a damage reduction of 40%. That's at the base without any leveling, right? But of course, when you level it up, it's going to be 80%. Long story short, easy explanation. The higher your Aspect of Suroth, the higher the turn meter on Kamir, meaning the more damage mitigation he's going to get. So much so that he actually survives the big hit. And once he survives, he can revive your whole team, and then you can do damage again. There's a couple things to note here that from my testing, I've actually realized, and I'm going to explain it to you guys so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys if you guys are having trouble with building out this type of team. So it's not as simple as just slapping on Aspect of Suroth, slapping on Timely Intervention, and then slapping 4 champions into a team and then having it go. The team can still fail because Kamir needs to have a health pool large enough to basically soak up that big hit. So he needs to have relatively okay stats, right? So for example, my Kamir, he's pretty quick. He's got 300 speed. It's got 70k HP. A regen set really helps. Immortal set really helps, mainly to help him passively rebuild his max HP destroyed, because the max HP destroyed actually reduces his health pool, which actually puts him at risk of dying. So if you have a low health pool, like 50k HP or something like that, you're probably not going to survive long enough to complete the run, especially if you can't clear the max HP destroyed. That gets destroyed by the Sand Devil. But somebody like Kamir is a pretty good candidate for this because he only requires speed and HP. The other really important part about choosing your reviver for this strategy to work is that ideally they have some kind of healing in their kit. If they don't have a team heal in the kit, this actually makes it, I think, not very viable. So you can't actually just choose a champion with just a team revive and then that's it. So for example, you have to pretty much choose a champion with a team revive plus a heal. For example, I was trying somebody like Gorgrab. Gorgrab was not working because he was not able to heal your whole team and keep them alive during some of the the intermediate attacks before the big attack. Somebody like Python, which is the champion that Bronco was showcasing in his initial video, works extremely well. His passive reduces damage, so he's already has some built-in damage mitigation. He has the cleanse, which takes off the decreased speed, which is good because that's going to allow you to get more turns in. And then he has the heal here, which is actually pretty significant also. And he has a really nice base HP, base stats, so you can build him up to be pretty tanky. Somebody else that I tested that actually kind of works is actually Lady Noelle. Lady Noelle kind of works a little bit. She does bring a little bit of a heal here, and it does heal all allies. If you have a surplus, it's not consistent enough that I would say it's good enough to use for this role, but you definitely want to have somebody that can heal your whole team and brings a team revive. Now, somebody like Arbiter was mentioned by Bronco, and then he said he tried to make this work, but unfortunately, Arbiter is one of those champions that uses the revive on death. The team revive skill. When there's no allies dead. When there's no allies dead, and using the skill can cause some problems, so you definitely don't want to do that. The other problem that can occur is during the actual fight. So during the actual fight, I'll list some issues here with this. So basically what happens is that whenever everybody dies before the big hit, Kamir is going to get, really big damage reduction and then survive. Now, what if your allies are dead before the big attack? If your allies are dead before the big attack, Kamir is going to take too much damage and then just die. Now, the other issue is, what if your teammates have less HP, like are basically clinging to life? They have less than enough HP to trigger timely intervention. If they don't have enough HP to trigger timely intervention, which means they're under that HP threshold so that Kamir does not get the turn meter, then Kamir is going to take more damage. He's going to be lacking the damage mitigation to survive. So there's a couple things going on here, right? You can't really bring food champions into this fight because the food champions will get resurrected all the time at wrong times, which will slow down the run. And also, if they're dead at the wrong times, you're not going to get the damage mitigation from them dying during that big attack. You can kind of see there. So in this case, we're cycling pretty well. Everybody's dying at the right times. We're getting the damage mitigation, et cetera, right? In a full team comp like this, it works quite well. It works quite well. The gear thresholds are not as crazy. And yeah, see, as long as everyone's alive, he's okay. All right. So the big thing here, another thing that's going to happen here is that you want a reviver with healing, right? This is important because you notice that his max HP pool is actually building up, or his destroyed max HP. And this is going to basically put him in danger of dying. So if his max HP is too low, there's a possibility that he's going to take too much damage and die, even if he has all 4 allies alive, because his pool can't absorb all that damage, right? And you can kind of see here our teammates are kind of getting a little bit low on HP. The A1 here from Kamir saves them, which is really good. So you get a little bit of healing here during this phase, and then he can rebuild some of that destroyed max HP. That's why it's really important. All right. So let's duck out of this real quick, and then I'll talk to you guys more about the mastery choices and what else you guys can do. You can try to make this work a little bit better for you. So Kamir here, again, you really want the regen. if you can swing the immortal set, that's going to be really good. Just give you guys some extra healing during that stage where you can recover your destroy max HP is really important. Like I said, aspect of Suroth, I did test this with a 9 +9 aspect of Suroth. It can work. It really depends on what kind of stats you have on your Khmer, what kind of stats you can bring into this fight. If you don't have great gear, you're going to need a better aspect of Suroth, etc., etc. If you have great gear, you can bring in less aspect of Suroth, or a weaker one. Another thing that really works here is any kind of turn meter boosting effect. So these gems are really, really good. Turn meter increase effects are 10% more effective. They're rare gems. Just easy to slot in. You're going to get a little bit of a boost here. Any kind of turn meter is going to help because it's going to increase the amount of damage mitigation that the aspect of Suroth is going to give your reviver, keeping them alive. If you have a square gem, I don't know which square gem would be best here. Yeah, maybe this one. This one would be good. The healing one. That's good. All right. But yeah, it's use whatever works. But these two circle gems work really well, especially for turn meter stuff. If you have a blessing, I would probably recommend maybe Miracle Heal if you really wanted this to work like really, really well. I don't like using a good, team reviver just specifically for this kind of cheese content. So I would probably still use something else for Khmer myself. But if you really want this to work, maybe something like Miracle Heal to clean up your destroy max HP might actually work. Now for the masteries, very important here. Obviously, this build or strategy does not work without timely intervention. You must have timely intervention. I laid out some of the trouble spots already. So mainly you have to have your champions above 25% HP before they die. Because if they're under, then they're not going to trigger timely intervention and you're not going to get the damage mitigation. Your reviver is going to die and your run's going to break. So timely intervention, very important for him. Extra stats, I find relatively important. The healing stuff, very important. If you have a reviver that heals your entire team, that's going to be really good. Any kind of healing stuff's good. Obviously taking some damage reduction, extra healing. Sand Devil does heal himself, so you get a little bit of heal there. This one's pretty good. And then this one's really good is damage reduction against the boss. Extra A1s, you can get some more team heals. And then Cycle of Revenge, you get extra turn meter, which of course is amazing. That's the name of the game, right? We want more turn meter here against the boss. Again, powering your aspect of Suroth, keeping you alive. Now, if for some reason your team struggles with perhaps cycling through your abilities, perhaps healing and all that stuff, you can definitely bring in champions that give you healing, that give you turn meter boosting to support your champion. So if you have a bunch of nothing, so we basically gave him a bunch of nothings. We have the apothecary, which is actually a really good sub in because he gives you everything you want. Right? He gives you the heal, he gives you the turn meter boost. It's everything you want from a random-ish champion. He's not random because he's actually kind of useful. But these other three champions are very random. But if you struggle with any part in this fight, bring in champions that can provide healing, that can provide some damage mitigation, provide turn meter boosting. Those are all help out your reviver survive the big hit, right? Now, there are ways to do this fight with less champions built, but I find they are more gear intensive and a little bit less consistent. So I think for this kind of strategy, I think it's going to be a non-food farming strategy. In this case, we did bring in one food and it's been working okay. But I probably recommend it's not necessarily a food running champion team, mainly because the food's going to die at bad times and then you might lose the damage mitigation when you need it the most. Now, I was playtesting like, oh, what would an end game team look like for this kind of comp? And basically I came across something like this. And of course, it's going to be multiple max HP damage dealers. I'll show you guys exactly how this works with basically 4 functioning champions with a designated role. So Maris comes in with max HP hits. We're going to do the turn meter stuff. Comes in with the big bashing. All of our bashes are going in. Unfortunately, in this case, when they revive, they don't get the reset. It's not like a Godseeker team. Everybody's going to die. We're protected. We revive everybody. Max HP hits are coming back in. Like I said, they don't get their big bashes reset or anything like that. So you notice how everybody's dropping pretty low, right? But then the Khmer A1 heals them back up to a reasonable amount. But yeah, we have to be careful. They have to be over 25%. If they're not over 25%, then we're not going to get the damage mitigation, and then Khmer is probably going to fall apart. But, we're trying to do this with as little stats as possible. I didn't want to show you guys like, 100K, 350 speed kind of commute. It just doesn't make sense for all you guys out there. So obviously, if you have a blessing, that's going to be very helpful. Give them some extra stats. Even just the one star is going to be decent. And this run should be over pretty soon here. Let's see if we can survive. Yep, we do survive the big hit. And I think that's going to be it. There you go. Minute 22. I mean, not particularly fast or anything like that. And it is something else that you can do instead of Godseeker. Godseeker with, 1 DPS. It is something different. But if you want to be efficient, obviously Godseeker is going to be way more efficient because you're just building one champion, one Godseeker, as opposed to, building a reviver and then having some kind of damage dealing option. Even just running Marius by himself would totally work. So, for example, if you just run Marius and then just a bunch of food champions or champions that don't really do anything. So, like for example, I can use. Um, there's a couple things that you need to think about for the champions that you need to use. So, for example, you don't want to use champions that don't have guaranteed death. All right. So what I'm talking about is like, for example, if you use Ezio, if you use somebody like Michelangelo who has evade, if you use somebody like Predator, they're not guaranteed to die. That's the thing. So with the Sand Devil, if they don't kill you or if they don't damage you on that big AoE hit, then you're not going to get the turn meter boost. And then the aspect of Surath is not going to provide the damage mitigation. And that's where some RNG is going to happen. And then you might end up failing the run. And you don't want to use champions like champions that can't survive, like the whole, multiple attacks before the big attack. Ideally, that's why this is not a great food farming team or strategy, because the food's just going to die on every hit, and then you're going to be wasting your revive all the time. So, for example, I'm just going to use, I don't know, I'm just going to use this. Like it's kind of just random stuff plus Marius. All right. So let's see how it works. All these champs should die. And we don't have additional healing. We don't have additional turn meter boosting. We're just relying on Khmer, aspect of Suroth, timely intervention, all that stuff. So, like I said, really important to have a reviver with built-in healing. If you have built-in healing, it handles a lot. If you don't have built-in healing, then, you kind of need another support with healing. If you have, a turn meter boosting support, even better. Somebody like Apothecary actually fills a very good role in this fight. If you have him, bring him in. He's just going to pitch in the extra help. So here you kind of see our teammates are kind of low on HP, and it's a little bit of a problem. We need Khmer to be relatively quick so that he can cycle through his A1, cycle through his revives, get everything back. You can kind of see here Nishak's low on the HP. He's not going to provide any timely intervention boost. But we still survive. We still survive. The other thing here is that all these extra hits kind of wake up the Sand Devil, and then it prevents Khmer from healing, which prevents him from clearing off the destroy max HP, which lowers his total max HP pool. Again, which puts him at risk of dying. So I don't think this comp is as easy as it looks or as easy as it's made out to be. The strategy, there's a lot of nuances here. And like I said, from my testing, I just went over some of these nuances with you guys. You can kind of see he's trying to build up his max HP a little bit. It's a little bit easier when everybody's dead because the turns don't wake up the Sand Devil, so he gets more turns to heal back his stuff. But you can kind of see his max HP is getting chipped away here a little bit. He doesn't have like a big single heal, right? That's the thing. His heals are from his A1s. His A1s are double hits. If you can bring in a champion with a big heal, that can heal when they're revived, it's gonna be pretty good. Better. Second reviver might be better too. Like somebody like Raglan could be okay. Just because she does bring a big heal, she does bring a revive. But I think this run's going to clear. This run's going to clear here. But anyways, this is more of a proof of concept I think it's going to be helpful for you guys if you guys are really struggling with this content. I hate this dungeon because it just doesn't give you a lot of solutions. And the solutions that you do come up with require you to have very specific champions or very specific teams built around, very specific mechanics like revive on death, using passives to cheat through some of this stuff. And in this case, we're actually using a mastery plus an we're using a mastery plus a relic to kind of cheat through this and get it to work. So just another way for you guys to deal with this sand devil stuff. I hate this dungeon. It's been reworked in the past too. Um, and it still sucks. It still sucks. They made it a bit easier to kill because they reduced his base stats or whatever, but the whole mechanic of this fight is just ridiculous. Yeah. Anyways, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below if it's been working for you guys. Let me know what teams have been working for you guys, what stats. If you guys have additional strategies, additional tips, please make sure you guys leave it in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this content, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. It would really, really help me out. Once again, huge thank you to Bronco for bringing to the community this strategy. I think it's going to help out some folks that are definitely struggling with this content. So thank you again to Bronco. Like I said, I'm going to leave a link to his channel and some of his videos in the comments and the pinned comment below. Once again, thank you guys for watching until the end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.